Well, a wonderful good morning again to you, our listeners on Classic Radio, Classic 105.5 and 105.9. And we say thank you and welcome again to our viewers on GBN Channel 7 and Channel 11. Channel 20 if you are in cable. Welcome to The Point for today, the 11th day of the month of November, 11/11/21. My name is Joseph Cadore, and I say thanks to being part of this morning's broadcast. I want to say thanks for those of you that's joining us via Facebook, YouTube, or the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd. And it is a pleasure being here with you. As intimated earlier on, I did say to you that we'll be joined by law enforcement this morning, specifically the traffic department, and we'll be joined by Constable Troy Paul, and we'll be talking all things related to traffic, things that you need to know, what some of the things you do that you're not supposed to do. Yes, we'll be talking about that this morning. That's the conversation on To The Point this morning. Good morning, Constable. How are you?
Good morning to you, and I am doing good so far this morning, and good morning to all your listeners as well.
Have you started feeling the spirit of the season as yet?
Not so much, but as my mom used to say, in due time we will start feeling when it comes closer to the Christmas.
Well,
we start here smelling the ham boiling and cake baking and so forth.
Well, you seem to have a whole lot of plans, so I will remember you because you seem to have plans. Some things, though, we don't have to wait for it to come around. And when it comes to the role and responsibility of the Royal Great Grenada Police Force, that is a 24/7, 365 days of the year. And specifically when it comes to the role and functions of your team, specifically in the traffic department, that is, there's no time lapse as to when and what you can do. And I know for the traffic department, it is every day on the job. We see you on the streets, in, out. What's the life of a traffic officer like, though?
The life of a traffic officer, it's a busy one. One I take with pride, and a lot of most of the officers. One where we out there 24/7 because we deal with accidents as well, and you do not know when an accident will happen. Making sure that our roads are safe for all road users. And to do that, because people travel on our road, despite we have curfew period, people travel on our road 24/7. And we cannot sleep. Because if we sleep, as he's saying, we will slide. And we have to respond on time, and to give proper service to our nation.
It's interesting. You rightly say so that while we sleep, we are allowed to sleep. But for law enforcement, you are the gatekeepers. You have to. Yes, we know the good Lord Almighty looks over us, but you're the ones that's there. I would always remember what your former old Commissioner Ernesto Gilvey always did say. Good morning to you, sir. He said that after God is the police. And when he said it, I remember I was like, after God is the police? He said, yes. When something happens to you, what do you say? Oh God, oh God.
Oh God.
Call the police.
And so definitely. Most definitely.
So you said it jokingly years ago. Good morning. Good morning from former Commissioner Ernesto Gilvey. He said after God is the police, and certainly we applaud what you do on a day-to-day basis. Traffic safety, checks, making sure that vehicles running right. Where do you want us to start the conversation this morning? Because I know it's a lot when it comes to your role and function.
Yes. Today I will be specifically on vehicle safety and security. And that is in relation to, because, from time to time we hear or we see posts on Facebook that a vehicle has been stolen. So this morning we want to speak about what measures persons can take and what to do if your vehicle has been stolen. And we want to let persons know that taking a vehicle without the consent of someone or the owner is an offense, and what can happen if they do so.
I think we need to remind individuals that taking anything without anybody's consent is stealing. And I think those are values that we need. Much just a car. I mean, you take a pencil that isn't yours, it is considered stealing. Far much a car. But how do you keep your vehicle safe, though? I'm not even sure why anybody would want to consider stealing someone's vehicle in Grenada. Why? How far can you even possibly get? But you tell me, what does the data, what does the stats show?
Yes, let me start by saying this. When we talk about vehicle safety and security, we're talking about measures to be taken to help prevent and protect a vehicle from being stolen or even being vandalized. Because we know from time to time persons come and you might see the car being keyed and so on. So far, for the year 2021, a total of 28 vehicles has been reported stolen. Compared to the year 2020, we had a total of 32. So we're seeing quite a number of vehicles have been reported stolen so far for the year for 2021. And we just started the Yuletide season. Who knows what happened? But I pray God that no one has to report their vehicles being stolen for the remainder of the year. So what I want persons to do, because as drivers or as persons using vehicles, we want persons to be smart. Be vigilant whenever that you are about to park your vehicle, park your car, so we do not become a victim to a vehicle being stolen.
So let's break that down. That's where I live, officer. That's where I live. I'm not going to park my vehicle in any strange place. I live there. Everybody knows that's my vehicle. What else can I do?
There's a lot you can do to protect your vehicle from being stolen or being keyed or for persons being vandalizing your vehicle. And right now I will give persons a few tips that they can take into consideration going forward, not only for the Yuletide season, but in our everyday life when you're about to park your vehicle or leave your vehicle unattended for some period of time. First of all, we want persons to make sure that your doors are locked, properly locked. So if you're parked, check all your doors. With that, we want you to make sure that all your windows are they are up, so that there is no space between. Because we look at movies and we see persons shove things inside, gadgets inside vehicles and unlock your vehicle and go away with it. So make sure that all your windows are properly. And what we do not want persons to do is to leave your keys in your vehicle and leaving your vehicle unattended. You have times, even you see it in the town of St. George, persons, the ignition is on, they're nowhere close to the vehicle. Sometimes they're in a building making a transaction, something like that, or they maybe run to drop something. In that split second, someone can enter your vehicle and move away with it because you leave the opportunity for someone to go with it. And the key is already there. All they have to do once they can maneuver that vehicle is to go with it. And God knows where they will go with it.
But let me ask you, because you get, and I know when we've already highlighted that crime as it is, these offenses, very often, it comes down to opportunity. And very often, yes. I'm assuming, is that what it is in most of these cases when it comes to vehicular theft? Is it that it is planned and premeditated, or somebody passes, they see the opportunity, and they just pounce on it?
What you look for in crime is opportunity and availability, right? That's two key measures you look for. Because some people don't plan, but then they see an opportunity and they take it. So too in human life, when we go for, we see opportunities and we take it. So do thieves and other people. They see an opportunity and they take it. So then, therefore, we need to protect, or we need to prevent that opportunity and do not give them that chance.
We started off, Constable, by talking. We highlighted some of the statistics for what it's certainly a growing concern for law enforcement, for the traffic department specifically. Have you been able to garner, in past part of your investigation, the crimes, the incidents of theft? Most frequently, who is it committed by? And what are some of the overarching reasons, though, why they do it? Because I would really, really, really like to know.
From the traffic standpoint, we more go forward with using the vehicle without the consent of our owner. Although depending on the circumstances, it can be considered stealing. But most of the times, to prove stealing, the person must want to permanently deprive the person, so that if maybe they might change the number plate, change the color of the vehicle. But we don't see that here happening here. So most of the time we go with using the vehicle without the consent of the owner. And you mentioned, a lot of persons take vehicles for different reasons. Sometimes you don't even get a good explanation as to why. But I remember one instance where there was this particular young man, I wouldn't call name, and he stole or he drove away with a couple of vehicle well, because I don't know whether he was on a rampage. And one of the reasons that came out, there were venues, shows around different parts of the island. And once he sees the opportunity and as I mentioned, the availability, he will take that vehicle, use whatever unlocking mechanism that he has, and go to the venue, a show. And once he gets to the venue, he parks the vehicle up. And that's where we find a couple of vehicles after they have been stolen.
So these are not necessarily quote unquote, I mean, while what they've done is under the law is wrong, but they're not necessarily what you would refer to as criminal masterminds, are they?
I wouldn't think so, but at the end of the day, they committed a criminal offense, whether it's traffic, but an offense has been committed. You go into someone's vehicle, you unlock it without their consent, and you move it from one particular place to the other. What if an accident occurred while you were driving? Who were to stand the blame? You see, when we do things, we have to look at the consequences.
And I think we're going to get to that later, because it only shows, those are things that literally is unheard of. Those are things we saw on television, where some juvenile gets into a vehicle and rides off with it. And I guess maybe you could say that is some of the overarching influence of more than the media, television, and probably lack of the diminishing values from home as well.
Well, a lot of factors can be considered, but first we must gather statistics to make probably cause and to safely say so. But with time, once we develop good policies and gather statistics, we'll be able to, in the near future, provide all the statistics, so then we will then therefore in a better position to curb those offenses and deal with it appropriately.
Well, and I agree, and I know from law enforcement that you would not just do anything haphazardly, but I think what we've seen is a growing concern, one, that it speaks to a shift in our values in society. To take somebody's vehicle, to me, it is one thing. You borrow somebody, but those are things that it starts to mean from small. And have you been able to identify through investigation, when you ask them, that while the taking of the vehicle might be considered something, of course, which catches the eyes of authority, but in questioning them, do you not get a sense that there's a sequence, that this individual, they started on what may be considered the taking or removal of small items, and that it has now translated itself into, you know what, they've done it for so long that, wow, let me go big now?
In some cases we can say so, because we always hear our parents growing up say, even though we say charity brings at homes and it ends abroad, and sometimes we start off by taking 25 cents when nobody recognizes it. Or your parents might park the vehicle and you move it and they bring it back before they even realize that it was moving or so on. And these traits start forming, and then maybe you're in a tight position, you need a vehicle to get to one position, and you see the opportunity and you take it. And persons from time, because we don't see it happening here much, but persons must be aware that even one can take someone's vehicle to go commit other crime, like a getaway vehicle, because I don't use my vehicle, so then they wouldn't suspect suspect me. So that's why we need to be vigilant as drivers and so on, whenever we park our vehicles, so that we won't fall victims to these persons taking our vehicle or even vandalizing our vehicles.
And that's why it's important that as adults in society that we take responsibility for what we expose our children to. Because a lot of times they see these shows on television and, they get this crazy idea, you know what, let me make a move with this. Have there been occurrences where individuals, in terms of the stats you gathered, where the vehicle is stolen for the purpose or maybe for parts, exporting to another country? Is there any occurrence of that happening locally?
So far, we can safely say that with the We have not discovered that as yet, but I don't want us as a nation to reach in that situation, because we know in other countries that anytime your vehicle reported stolen, the likelihood of you getting it back is slim to none. Or if you get it back, you might get it back no tires, no rims and parts. They take out your door, they take out your bonnet, they take out parts of your vehicle. But so far, we can safely say that we do not have that problem here.
I did ask you, but then you probably needed to slip you. What's the average age range of the individuals, the perpetrators of those acts?
From what I can safely say, from those that have passed through my department, which Traffic Department headquarters, it ranged between I think it's 17 to about 35.
So this is young people. This is not
Yes,
grown.
Because we had a couple juveniles as well in there. That's why the age range starts from 17.
Okay. I know that there are penalties on the books for that. I mean, and we are going to talk about that a bit later on. But how do you deal with one of those cases, especially when it comes to juveniles? What's the process do you go through so as to remedy, not just of course for the purpose of saying, okay, we've caught the perpetrator, but certainly do you get involved in any remedial work with them? The parents getting involved? I'm assuming you do because they're juveniles. When they're juveniles.
What the police responsibility here is to report the matter to the legal aid. The person is responsible for them, and we work hand in hand with them, with juveniles, and because there's procedures to be followed when we deal with juveniles.
Correct.
So then we follow those principles, we follow those procedures, we report the incident to them, and then they come along on board and they work with us and through the entire process, even if the matter has to go to court. And some get counseling and they do what they have to do on the end from legally.
18 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. In case you are just joining us, my guest this morning is Constable Troy Paul of the Royal Grenada Police Force, specifically the Traffic Department, and we talking about vehicle safety and highlighting one of the growing concerns is that of vehicle theft. Constable, we're talking about safety. So we highlighted that most times it is crime of opportunities. Yes, I see it, I make an ill-advised decision. That by itself. But you're saying there are ways that the general public, you can keep your vehicle safe. You can keep it safe.
Yes.
Yes. Take me through some of those.
There's a lot more mediums that we can consider when securing our vehicles. I've just mentioned a few, and I will go into them, the others. Yes. So I've mentioned locking your doors, making sure that your windows are up. Don't leave keys or leave your vehicle unattended. We want persons that if you have to park, especially at night, park in well-lit areas, under street lights or where there's close to houses, that if somebody attempts and they hear something, that they can see what's going on. So park in well-lit areas. Also, persons must be mindful that they should not leave valuables in your vehicle. We talk about availability, I guess, because once a thief sees that, they see you have your purse there, first thing they think in a purse has money. Your laptop is a valuable, can be sold and gain money. And whatever valuables that person's having, the person might see, they wouldn't break the vehicle there, but they see the opportunity to move away the vehicle, take the items and park the vehicle elsewhere. They will do that. So that is one of the reasons for parking a vehicle in well-lit areas. Persons can also consider using audio alarm system. It helps a lot in deterring, because if I attempt to enter a vehicle and there's an alarm system, we know the noise that it will make. It is very, very disturbing. It can be a nuisance.
Right.
And a thief hearing that, so let me change my mind before I get caught. Also, persons can install GPS or tracking device. So even if you're not there, your vehicle has been stolen, we're in a technological advanced era, we can maybe pull up on our device, our phone, and track our vehicle and see why my vehicle is in Grenville. I didn't park in Grenville. So it can help a lot. Persons can also use.
When you on the issue of the technology, Constable, I know you have a quite well-trained IT department. Is there any possibility whether or not that is something that maybe that the RGPF as a unit, the traffic department, can look into being able to support the general public in the use of the GPS, because it is everyday technology. Years ago it was reserved for special special occasions, but now maybe we can see that as an area where the RGPF can add to its portfolio of services and ways of solving crimes.
Something that we can look into and look at the pros, look at the cons, and once it benefits the people, because we are here to serve, and we will not fall short of doing that to the public. And any way that we can look into and provide that service to the public, we will, once it's beneficial to both the RGPF and the public. Something that maybe I can raise to the authorities and look into it. But so far we have not considered that aspect as yet, but as you mentioned,
you never know.
It is something that we can look forward to.
I guess because the truth of it, Grenada is pretty small, and I'm almost certain that we probably know each other. We know each, and that's one of the luxury, the advantage of being so well knitted as a nation. Your vehicle. Your colleagues know it, your neighbors know it. If it passes, the first thing they pick up their cell phone and they'll call you, hey, you're passing the area, you're saying hi. So maybe we probably not, we may not even need to go as far as the GPS anyway. I think our own instincts as Grenadians, they say, quote unquote, we jokingly say we fast, maybe it probably helps us anyway.
And to add to that, we must say thumbs up to Facebook because and the social medias, because most time persons vehicles stolen, they make a post on Facebook and the other social medias, and you see within split time that it is shared, and the amount of share, and it's shared on different person pages, and then sometime within a short space of time the person say, thank you, my vehicle has been recovered, and thanks for sharing, and so on. So we cannot forsake social media in terms of assisting in recovering stolen vehicles. And
it only goes to show to Constable that social media is not the problem. It's the individuals behind it, how they choose to use social media. So there is some positive, some positive coming out of it.
A lot of positive.
We keep an eye on the clock, 25 minutes after gone past the hour of 10 o'clock. It is to the point. My guest this morning from the RGPF-Traffic Department is Constable Troy Paul. We take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we entertain more of the questions from information from Constable Paul, and certainly we give you the opportunity to chime in with your questions and queries via the live studio calls or via your submissions via the different social media portals. Quick commercial break. We'll be right back, Grenada.
Stop the spread of germs that can make you and others sick. Cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. If you don't have a tissue, use your elbow. Wash hands often, especially after coughing or sneezing into a tissue.
This is a message from the Ministry of Health. If you or a family member suspect that you may have contracted COVID-19 and are displaying symptoms, please immediately self-isolate at home. This means that you must also avoid all contact with other members of your household. Do not visit hospitals or health centers, as this creates the potential for further spread of the virus, and it puts additional persons at risk when you come into contact with them. Your best course of action is to call the COVID-19 hotline at 458-4787 or 538-4787, or contact your nearest health center or medical station. Once your information has been received, health officials will come to you. Help prevent the spread of COVID-19. This has been a message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to The Point. My guest this morning from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenadier Police Force is Constable Troy Paul. Constable, we talk about safety. We're highlighting some of the concerns as it relates to vehicular theft. And I think we've highlighted that a lot of crimes, they're crimes of opportunity. So there's an opportunity. The onus is on us, I'm saying, to limit on the occasions and opportunities that one can have in committing an infraction or crime against us. We're talking about protecting your vehicle at all time, whether we use audible alarms, making sure we close our vehicles. We see a lot of times persons in their rush, especially when they give, let's say, individuals a lift or a ride, or even if they exit the vehicle, they close up the windows at the front and they carelessly forget those at the back. How often do you see that? You're walking through the streets of St. George, and an individual thinking, well, the vehicle is well closed, nice and secure, and then you realize the windows at the back is an open sepulcher.
Time to time we see that. Even myself, as a driver, that has happened to me at times. Sometimes you lock your vehicle, and then when you do a check around, you realize that I didn't put up that window. So that's why it's good to check your vehicle after you park to make sure that it is properly, all the windows are up and it's properly locked.
Indeed, that is really important. 29 minutes gone past the hour. Reminding you the number on the inside is 435-2041. WhatsApp as well is available for your use as well. To every crime, there's a penalty and there's an action. Granny always says, those who can't hear, they are going to feel. And so let's talk about the penalties for those infractions for car theft, vehicle theft.
Yes. So we spoke about the offense of using a vehicle without the consent of the owner. And that is to say that when someone takes your vehicle, even attempt to move your vehicle from one where it is parked or where it is located without the consent of the owner or the person who is in authority of that vehicle at that particular time. Once you remove that vehicle without their consent, you commit an offense and under the Road Traffic Act. So it is section 63(1) under the Road Traffic Act, and it says that on conviction of because it's an indictment and also a summary conviction. It says on conviction of an indictment to a fine of $2,000, $2,500, or imprisonment for a term of 2 years, or both such fine and imprisonment, and on summary conviction to a fine of $1,000 or imprisonment for 9 months, or both such fine and confinement.
As you can well appreciate, Constable, we always try to allow this to be a learning exercise. So when you say summary conviction, what exactly, for the purpose of some young person that is out there, what exactly does the law makes reference to when it talks about summary conviction?
So we normally in a court system, matters, some matters are tried before the magistrate, and some are tried before a judge. Those that are tried before a judge in local parlance are those, as we said, indictments, such as murder, rape, and so on. So you sit before a jury, and then they'll listen to the complaint made, the evidence given, and then they'll make their decision.
Right.
So when you're talking about an indictment, it's tried by the High Court. And on summary conviction, it's tried by the magistrate court. And the magistrate gives him or her decision after hearing all the evidence.
Excellent.
So as we see here, the indictments have a greater fines and greater imprisonment sentence compared to the summary, as we said, which is 1,009 months imprisonment.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Because we always want to make sure that when we speak, we communicate to the public, that at least we leave them educated. And someone can say, you know what? I didn't know that. This is what it is. This is what it is. Yes. Wonderful.
And so we always say knowledge is power.
Knowledge is...
You know the consequences. If you commit the offense, you have to stand the consequences.
And I think it's important that people, that they understand that, because ignorance of the law by no stretch of the imagination is an excuse to say that I don't. But I can't imagine you taking somebody's vehicle without their permission, and you're trying to then fathom in your head whether or not there's going to be consequences for it. I mean, but I think it goes back to where we started the conversation, and maybe as a young person, as a young officer yourself, maybe you can just shed some light on that. That very often there's a lot of young individuals who seem to be misguided in their thoughts. I'm sure when you were growing up, there were absolute rights and wrong, and there were things you knew off the cuff. As soon as you thought it went through your head, you knew that was wrong, even if you saw it. But you get the sense now that those values, they've shifted, and even probably makes it even much more challenging for you as law enforcement, that you sort of have to look at things and you start laughing like, really? This is what somebody's opted to do, not knowing that there's consequences to it?
To answer, a lot of values have shifted from back then to now. We see a lot in the way our persons operate. Back then, we knew that we growing up know that you're not supposed to take things that is not yours. But yet still, even back then, people still take things that are not theirs. But then compared to crime back then and crime now, we're seeing a lot of crimes reported. So therefore, it means that a lot of value have shifted from then to now. And it is a concern for law enforcement, and something that we have to look at in combating these offenses, these crimes, and helping reduce crimes, because that is what we want as a nation. It's not just solving crimes, but we want to reduce the crimes that have been committed so that we can have a safe Grenada.
And sometimes in your pursuit of your daily functions, it's not just about the solving of the crimes, and because I know there's always a preventative element to what you do. The idea is that you don't want to prevent it in the first place. But very often, being a traffic officer, you're out there. It's not just about calling traffic, go left, go right, and adjusting the flow of the traffic, but you also have to interact, Constable Paul, with us. I know what I'm saying, us. I'm saying us.
Yes,
as part of the general public. And very often it calls for emotional intelligence, patience.
Yes.
When you take a moment, you have to stop and ball, like, seriously? How often as an officer, how critically important is that for you as an officer in dealing with and being able to buy into the trust of the public, because it's an important element in helping you solve crimes on a daily basis and just keeping Grenada safe?
Yes, as law enforcement, we have a responsibility and we have a mandate to prevent crime, solve crime, and so forth. But yet still, we still have to provide that service. When we deal with persons, we deal with them professional. Yet still, we have to be sensitive, because we meet a lot of different personalities on the road every day. You might meet the aggravated, you might meet the calm, the cool, the collective, you might meet different people. And you cannot have that same approach when you meet everybody. So then, therefore, sometimes you have to switch. And you know, in being professional, because at times you may offer a simple have a nice day, ma'am, and the person might take it wrong. Or they might say, I don't want your morning, maybe after you charge them or so forth. But you being that professional that you are, you say, well, thank you for cooperating, have yourself a one night, and I don't need your morning. Simple like that. But still, we have to keep our guard, because remember, we are to be held at a higher standard than the rest of the public.
And that is particularly true, and it's for those reasons why you are an officer, whether in uniform or out of uniform.
Out of uniform. You're always on duty 24/7.
Always on duty 24/7. We're keeping our eyes on the clock, Grenada. It is 23 minutes onto the hour. We haven't had carnival in the last, 2 years, officially. There's been no carnival. But somebody was asking about the spikes, whether or not, I'm assuming it might be reasonable to conclude because of the opportunity, because of there's a lot of social events taking place. But during carnival and those festive seasons, we have Christmas coming up. And is that normally the time when you see a spike or increase in the occurrence of vehicular theft?
Some of the times, yes, because I've mentioned earlier on where we had a couple cases reported around, it was carnival events where a couple shows and they use the vehicle to go to shows. But there is no specific time where persons might move a vehicle, because remember, what persons look for, as I've mentioned too, I've alluded to earlier on, is the availability. And once that element is there, persons take advantage of it. Yes.
So the onus is on the public at all time to secure your vehicle.
Yes. And what I want persons to do, that if your car has been reported and you're calling to make a report of a stolen vehicle, especially the person reporting, what I want you to bear in mind when you're contacting the police, firstly, we want you to contact 911 or the nearest police station. Yes, if you discover that your vehicle has been stolen. And bear in mind that when you call, that you must first know the registration number of your vehicle so that we can assist you. Know the registration number of your vehicle. Secondly, if you know the year, make, model of your vehicle, we need that information. And also color of that vehicle. Some of us, if you might know our chassis number, if you know your chassis or VIN number, give that details to the police.
Right.
Where you last parked your vehicle, the time you last parked your vehicle, and the condition you left it in. So when you call, be ready to give that information to the police.
But why does it matter?
Along with your personal information.
Well, why does it matter, officer, where I last packed my VIN number, my chassis number? I'm telling you that my vehicle is stolen. What does it matter?
For identification purpose, for recovering that vehicle. So once you give us that information, we send out an APB via our radios and different means, whether it might be social media. And once persons see those information, especially the license plate, the registration number of the vehicle and the color, once they see that, they alert persons, alert police stations. They might even Facebook. They can say, well, I just passed that vehicle in frequency or whatever location, and so on. And it aids in helping us and the person recover their vehicle.
You send out an APB,
yes.
Constable. What is an APB? And for the purpose of edifying, what are some of the other terms, regular terms that is used in your discourse and discharge of your duties? The terms and jargons that you use. Of course, there are those, I'm assuming, who probably would remain internal. But for the public, for the public to know, just to help educate.
In simple terms, it's a broadcast. We have radios, and once you send out one broadcast, once persons are in possession of an handheld radio or on our frequency, they will be able to hear that same information. So I don't have to send one information to 20 or 50 persons. I send one broadcast, and everyone can listen to it and can respond speedily.
and I'm assuming we've heard of the hammer, those ham users, those amateur radio users. Once you're on that frequency.
Radios, yes, once you're on that frequency. So it broadcasts to persons on the street, persons in stations, and even in the mobile vehicles that are on the road.
Are there any laws, restrictions regarding who logs the use of your channel? Is your channel specific to the police, or is it the way it is regulated? It's a free port for everyone.
That's a question I will leave to persons in the IT department to answer in terms of restriction, usage, and so on. But what we will focus on is the information that will be disseminated through that medium so that we can assist law enforcement in their day-to-day duties.
And I understand, but I was just taking from the context that, given that's the predominant medium that we use to disseminate information, sometimes criminal elements, they can use it as well, to say, well, this is what the police is doing. So in that context, and I really would want us to know, so at least we can be conscious, because the criminal elements, they try to stay ahead just the same. The technology evolves, and they actually try to stay ahead. And most individuals, because what they attempt to do, they see it on television, and they try to adopt the same things anyway. 17 minutes onto the hour, to the point. We take a quick commercial break. My guest this morning from the traffic department is Constable Troy Paul. We'll be right back.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio, the Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere. Minutes on to the hour of 10 o'clock. Welcome back to The Point. My guest this morning from the Royal Grenada Police Force is Constable Troy Paul. Constable, we're talking safety. We focus a bit on the growing concern and the growing challenge for law enforcement of vehicular theft, and as it is. But when I read let's just, is possibly just take the next few minutes just to talk about the general safety on the nation's road. Any growing trend that the department you've noticed recently that you want to draw some attention to?
Yes, there's a lot from the traffic department standpoint where we want persons to be aware of the use of cell phones while driving. We still continue to see that being trending. Persons with a cell phone in their hand attached to their ear speaking while they're driving. We want to let you know that it is still an offense to use your vehicle or use your mobile vehicle while driving.
The mobile device,
also,
yes.
We're still seeing persons failing to wear their seatbelt while the vehicle is in motion. One of the most prevalent offense along our roads every day. I would just step outside and out of 5 vehicles that pass, maybe 2 to 3 out of it, persons are not wearing a seatbelt.
Let me take the conversation close to home as you've brought it, because it's an argument that has been made by the general public that I see law enforcement individuals, for whatever reason, they may not be following the same protocols, and as such, individuals assume, well, if Tom Jones ain't doing it, well, why should I? What would be your response to that?
My response would be and will always be the fact that seatbelts should be worn by every driver. Whether it is you're in a police vehicle, you're in your private vehicle, once you're the front seat driver and passenger, the law says you have to wear a seatbelt.
Can I, as a civilian, report any occurrence or incidents of, if I see law enforcement authorities not following the prescribed law, and can we be assured that it will be treated with the same letter of the law as applied to the ordinary civilians?
Yes, matters can be reported, and there's a department for that, the Community Relations Department. And I have seen it with my own eyes that where police have been charged for traffic offenses. We see it every day, even in the traffic department. Police have been charged for traffic offenses, and some of them end up in the court.
Again, as it relates, the law remains for the lawless,
yes.
Whether you're uniform or not.
Yes, but what we do want to admonish persons that they must wear their seatbelt. Another prevalent thing, we've seen a lot of persons driving without license. I don't know if it's a style these days, but something that has a lot of consequences behind it, even for loss of life, because you're not a competent driver. We're talking about for insurance purposes. If you meet in an accident, you cause damage to person's property, you cause damage to vehicle and so on. There's, as I said, a lot of consequences going behind driving without license. And to me, it is a form of dangerous or reckless driving.
And you say it's becoming more and more prevalent?
Yes, we see it from time to time. Persons, almost every day, persons get arrested for driving without license.
Do you have an age group? Is it minors, mature individuals?
No age group, because we see from right down to 16, 17, go right up to the 60s and 70-year-old drive without license.
What are some of the reasons that they would forward for not having their license or driving without their license?
A lot of reasons to consider, because a lot of persons might maybe have fear that they may fail and so on, or some people just don't want to. They believe I can maneuver a vehicle. I don't need a license. If I get the opportunity to take it, I don't have to drive every day, but once the opportunity comes, I will take that opportunity.
You mentioned persons being concerned that they may fail, and failing in the context, because there is a theoretical part to the exam and there is the practical part. I'm assuming it's in the context of they questioning their intellectual ability to maneuver the way through the exams.
Yes.
Do you make special do you stick to the letter of the law when it actually comes to that, or is there special provisions on within the law, or discretion that is, that law enforcement would use in such cases?
From the traffic department standpoint, once persons, especially in the theoretical aspect, they provide a dictation, so forth. So then, if you cannot read or write, but some people can articulate. So they assist persons in that avenue. That way, you might be able to describe certain things, or maybe you know it, but you cannot read or you cannot write or understand it, but you know what to do. We assist persons in that way.
And those will be discretionary arrangements that will be made about given consideration, if ever.
Assess, everything has to be assessed to ensure maybe they attempt the exam a couple of times and they fail, and you look at the score, and then that can be considered.
So there's no excuse, really and truly.
None whatsoever.
You get a growing sense, Corporal, that we becoming more defiant as a society?
Well, we see that every day, not just only in Grenada, but the world to an extent. Persons become defiant, and as law enforcement, we just have to do what we have to do. Ensure that we make sure, especially from traffic standpoint, make sure that our roads are safe. So we will be out there every day, even if it means that we have to be day, morning, noon, and night, to make sure that you get to your destination safe and other persons get to their destination safe.
You highlighted quite early, as we keep out because we read it at a time, that even during curfew, there's still individuals who for some reason, they think it is okay to be out for any reason without merit. What's the message from law enforcement regarding that?
Well, from the standpoint from law enforcement, curfew person should comply with the curfew times. And once you breach the curfew, whether it's the time or for whatever infraction under the regulation, law enforcement take it very, very serious. Because remember, these regulations have been placed there for a purpose, because the COVID time, and those restrictions are there to help curb the spread of the virus. So once you defy them, we take action against the perpetrators, and we deal with it take the necessary action.
Trying to race to get home for your curfew, and nobody should be racing now anyway, because it's now midnight. I can't imagine what job could you be in that. I mean, if you're in the hotel industry, you're going to work at 11 o'clock. But let's assume for whatever reason, speeding should not be an excuse. The restriction, curfew drawing near, should not be an excuse for speeding on the nation's road. That's a no-no at all times.
No. Because what we want persons to look at, because if I know that I'm living in St. Andrew, I know the time that it will take me from town to St. Andrew, or whatever destination that you intend to go from where you are.
Right.
So you have to prioritize that I must leave here by 9:30, I must leave here by 8:30 to get to my destination before curfew hours. So there's no need for me to be speeding so that I can meet in an accident or have unnecessary charges or so forth. Or if we go in events that we know that we have to leave at a certain time. Yes, so we can get to our destination safe.
And there's two things I want you to comment on for me before we wrap, because there's 5 minutes on the hour. Youngsters on bicycles, and even what's the law regarding that? You see them, no reflectors, no nothing, and they navigate through the street trying as though, well, we're law onto our own. And even a lot of young individuals that's on motorcycles without the necessary protective gears.
Yes, the law requires whether it's a bicycle or bike, that you are required to wear especially a protective headgear. And for your personal safety as riders, there's other protective headgears which protects other parts of our bodies. I think that it is safe to say that you should use them as well, because we do not know when something may happen. It is not just I'm not going out there to crash or meet in an accident, but remember, accidents are unintentional at times. So first we must protect ourselves, but the law requires one to wear a helmet, and you're driving in manner, you drive prudently in the public, and with due care and consideration for other users as well.
Due care and consideration for other users, which means you cannot, the idea of trying to multitask is a no-no on the devices. But I often say, every day I try to say it, that you must be cognizant enough of other road users, especially those constables that's not looking out for themselves. Some people, they're walking now and they're distracted, they're not driving. There's a concern about individuals driving and being distracted by the devices, but pedestrians as well.
Yes, at times we see that pedestrians are sometimes distracted, and you on your phone and you're walking. That's something that multitasking here does not work, because I've seen persons end up in drains, ditches, bump into poles, buildings, and even vehicles while using their cell phone, especially texting and trying to walk or maneuver to one place to another. And much less for pedestrians bumping into this object. For a driver maneuvering a vehicle, we see how dangerous this one can be.
Even when it comes to the use of the header, this week actually, right, when the carnage, I was not a child, which was interesting. It was a grown adult on his device, not necessarily texting, but losing consciousness as to the fact that there are rules that governs the use of the pedestrian crossing. Let's just say, because we're going to wrap now, but that was the last matter I want you to attend first in a minute or so. What are the rules that governs the use of the pedestrian crossing, both for the drivers and for the pedestrians?
So far, we have no laws in relation to pedestrian crossing here.
But when I say laws, in terms of there are some designated rules. Right.
Yeah. So when you approach a pedestrian crossing as a driver, because remember there's a safe that walk path, the white square or rectangle we see in the roads where persons walk from one side to the other. And if you look before or after, there's supposed to be a line which we call the stop line. So if a pedestrian is in that area, as a driver, we have to slow down, and if they're crossing, we stop before that white line and ensure that the pedestrian cross from one side to the other before proceeding. And so forth for pedestrians. If a vehicle is past that white line, you should stop. Allow that vehicle to continue, and then you lift your hand or you wave in the direction of the vehicle of oncoming traffic, signaling to them that you intend to cross. And once that identifies you make sure that vehicle comes to a complete stop first, and after you cross from one side to the other.
Because
getting to your destination.
Standing there is not a rite of passage that says, I want to go to the other side. There must be some form of two-way communication.
Because people loiter in pedestrian zone as well.
Because I've seen cases where drivers they stop because they see you, and the person says, no. I'm
not going. Yes.
And there are individuals who think that once I get to the pedestrian crossing, they don't care what's the proximity to the oncoming vehicle. You know what? I'm going to cross. And I think that is something that as Grenadians we need to be conscious of. So now we take it for granted. I mean, in Grenada, I think in most cases, our drivers, they understand the culture, but certainly it's not a healthy practice at all. Constable?
No, it's not.
Thank you. Appreciate the time that we spent for the last hour in educating the public, wishing yourself and all of the other officers at the traffic department enjoy the rest of the day. And to Superintendent
Randy
Connaught. Do have a pleasant day to you, sir. All the best.
Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to the program this morning. And I trust that persons will take heed to the information that has been disseminated this morning and use it so that we can have a safer road for all road users.
Thank you. Constable Paul Grenada, this is as far as I can take you on to the point for today, the 11th day of November. Indeed, it was a pleasure being here with you on Good Morning Grenada from 6 this morning. We do this, good Lord's willing, all over again tomorrow. We're going to transition, though, because we're just going to take a break, and we're going to head to the other side of the studio, television studio, where we get ready for Tis the Season. That's the plan. JC loves you. Until then, folks, have yourself a really, really great day. We say thanks to those of you that chimed in via social media, Kipling, and all the other regular participants. It really, really is a pleasure having you on any day, being part of the GBN conversation. Have a great day. Until then, folks, so long.